The story began on January 18, 1954, in Bangkok, Thailand. Only the angels knew what was to become of this little girl. In a few years, God's perfect plan laid out for her would be revealed. Da was the eldest of 5 siblings. Her family was very close-knit, and most of her fondest memories are when they would take weekend trips to the beaches of Thailand. Her parents both worked for the French consulate in Bangkok. Her childhood consisted of attending Mass regularly, and she showed a fervent spirit even as a young girl. When Da graduated from high school, she studied accounting at Chulalongkorn University, the most prestigious university in Bangkok. In her college years, her dream was to become a successful business administrator of a large corporation in Thailand. Da finished university and she worked as an accountant at a large bank while Varun was attending medical school. In 1980, Varun proposed to Da, and in that year they met an airline pilot who witnessed to them. This was the beginning of God's wondrous plan for their lives. After they were married, they moved to Chanthaburi in the Upper East Side of Thailand for Varun's medical practice. Da enjoyed life outside of the big city. Her life was full of discipling young believers. God was starting to prepare Da for the work to come. They lived in Chanthaburi for 5 years, and it was here that the first of their 3 children was born, Tanita. In 1985, they moved to Seattle, where Pastor Lau was starting his residency as a neurosurgeon. Pastor Da stayed at home to care for their 4-year-old. God knew that Pastor Da was a strong woman of God, and it was there that he called the couple with a challenge. He wanted them to start a church, and in 1988, Pastor Lau started our church in his home. This was difficult for Pastor Da because Pastor Lau was gone for up to 48 hours at a time during various days of the week while Da was at home raising a 7-year-old. Pastor Da had shown a patient spirit with perseverance and obedience to whatever God had in store for her. Some brothers and sisters remembered seeing her having Bible studies while her daughter laid beside her till midnight. Her giving spirit was the most infectious. She would remember people's birthdays, even their children's. Being a kind and caring person to them, she would make sure that each brother and sister would feel that they were precious in the eyes of God. We can all agree that Pastor Da is one of the kindest people we know in our lives. She remembers the smallest things that most people would think of as unimportant. After meetings at the church, you can see her washing dishes, sweeping the floor, or taking out the garbage. Her serving and giving spirit gives her the capacity to do more in a day than most can do in a week. If you ask her why she does all of this, she will say that she loves to do it. And if she doesn't do these things, then the opportunity to bless others will have passed, and that person might have missed God's blessing. The perfect scripture that describes this wonderful gift of God to our church is Proverbs 31:10-31. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her, and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax, and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family, and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously, her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds a distaff, and grasps a spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor, and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all her hands have done, and let her work bring praise at the city gate. And in the present day, Pastor Da's kind words and concern for you will touch your life. She convinces us that God is real simply through her kindness and dedication that Christ gave her. Since 1980, a period of 33 years, you can still find her doing the simplest of things, like teaching a new believer the basic Christian doctrine and bringing women to the Lord. She dedicates hours on end, encouraging them to be steadfast in their faith and believe in God's promise in all the circumstances they are facing. Her ability to look after the needs of others while balancing being a godly wife, mother, and grandmother is only by God's divine provision. She does everything to her utmost strength while trusting in the Lord. The actions in her own life are a shining example for us to mimic. She shows us to trust in the Lord and to be obedient to our callings, to leave our burdens to Him, because the plans He has for us in our lives will blossom. So Pastor Da, we appreciate you and know that you are God's gift to this church and to the churches to come. You will be the recipient of numerous crowns in the kingdom of heaven. Your love, kind words, and giving spirit is so contagious that it is the lifeblood of this church. We love Pastor Lau, but without you by his side, we would not have what we have today, and the hundreds of other churches would never have been born. Your life has impacted so many lives that we can only realize the numerous amounts when we stand in front of the Lord and see the crowd that has gathered there because of you. The amount of people will be so large that our eyes will not be able to see the end of its extent.